Welcome to Direct U.S. Federal Contracting with AWS. My name is Garrell Moore, and I'm a manager of business contracts at AWS. The objectives of this presentation are for you to understand how AWS procurement differs from traditional IT procurement, understand how to procure AWS services, including the differences between procuring directly from AWS and indirectly through AWS solution providers, and understanding what a direct contract for AWS services looks like. Cloud computing procurements are a bit different from traditional IT procurements. Traditional IT procurements many times involve physical assets, including physical servers, network equipment, racks, cabling, etc. There's also installation, configuration management, and replacement of physical assets. These are mostly considered capital expenditures, or CapEx. Many times when equipment is procured to meet projected demand, there's often underestimating or overestimating, which can cause waste, or you can be left with not enough assets to meet your mission. Software and hardware often end up as shelfware when they're procured but not actually used. This can occur because they're no longer needed when they finally arrive. There's also the issue of processing or delivery delays. With AWS, you procure cloud-based services instead of physical assets. AWS services are on demand, so customers pay for what they use. Instead of managing physical assets, customers manage cloud services via web and software interfaces. With AWS, you can quickly and even automatically scale up and scale down services as needed, instead of overestimating and overprocuring to meet projected maximum demand. With AWS, you replace your upfront capital expense with low variable cost and pay only for what you use. Similar to electric and water service, hourly pricing allows you to turn off the service when you don't need it and turn it back on again when you need it again. This allows you to save money when the service is off. Customers only pay for the aggregate usage within any given billing cycle. Annual pricing is also available for some services when you know a service must be on all the time. AWS offers you pay-as-you-go pricing for a wide selection of cloud services with continual improvements to existing services and new services added all the time. For more details on pricing, see https://aws.amazon.com/pricing. Federal government customers can procure services directly from AWS. In this case, the contract is between the federal government and AWS. AWS provides cloud services directly to the federal government. Federal government customers can also choose to procure AWS services through an AWS solution provider. This is an indirect relationship between the customer and AWS, where the contract is between the customer and AWS solution provider. AWS solution providers provide cloud-based solutions that use AWS services. Federal government customers can also choose to procure AWS services through an existing contract vehicle. For a list of existing contract vehicles and to find out more about contracts with AWS, visit https://aws.amazon.com/contract-center. Establishing a direct contract with AWS. AWS is a commercial provider of cloud services. AWS services are classified as commercial off-the-shelf or COTS infrastructure as a service as defined by FAR 2.101. Many of the government clauses relevant to procuring traditional IT services are not applicable to procuring infrastructure as a service, and therefore are not applicable to procuring AWS. Direct contracts for AWS should be firm fixed price. AWS is a commercial company. All services are sold on a fixed price basis. This allows the customer more predictability when estimating cost. We encourage customers to include a single CLIN for all AWS services and not use an individual CLIN for each different service. Our catalog has over 1 million items, so it really wouldn't be feasible to manage a contract with that many CLINs. Using a single CLIN with a generic description, such as AWS services, makes the contract easier to administer, allowing customers to use their entire catalog without issuing a contract modification every time AWS deploys a new service or reduces prices. So what does a U.S. federal direct contract with AWS look like? You'll start with your standard government form for procurement, such as an SF-1449, SF-30, or other type. Different agencies use different forms, so whatever standard form your agency uses for the procurement of commercial items is what you'll use. Next is the AWS Enterprise Agreement, which is a list of the standard commercial terms that govern the use of AWS cloud services. Then you have the rest of our attachments, and we'll get into those a little bit later. Services that are available under the direct contract include AWS Cloud Computing Services, training, professional services, and purchases from the AWS Marketplace. For more information on AWS Marketplace, see https://aws.amazon.com/marketplace. Talk to your AWS sales representative for more information on AWS professional services and AWS training. AWS terms and conditions. AWS terms and conditions are designed to reflect how cloud services function, so it's critical that our terms and conditions be incorporated into the contract. Limit your standard form to include only the mandatory FAR Part 12 commercial items and any agency-specific mandatory clauses to the greatest extent possible, along with the AWS commercial terms and conditions and amendments to those terms. The AWS Enterprise Agreement lists the standard commercial terms that speak to the usage of AWS cloud services. The AWS Federal Amendment addresses specific terms for U.S. federal government contracting. The AWS GovCloud Amendment is a modification of AWS security terms and is specific to the AWS GovCloud US regions. The AWS DoD Addendum, which for DoD customers addresses requirements specific to cloud requirements in the DFAR. If the customer chooses to issue an IDIQ for the services, what happens is that we would negotiate all the terms and conditions at the IDIQ level, and each and every task order that's issued under that IDIQ would contain the exact same terms and conditions that have been negotiated under the base. So we're not having to renegotiate terms and conditions every time you issue a new task order. Some agencies issue multiple task orders. A multi-agency vehicle is possible. To avoid negotiating a brand new set of terms and conditions for each and every task order, we recommend that the terms and conditions remain consistent across the task orders issued under a specific IDIQ. Contract line items, or CLINs. Each CLIN in a direct contract or task order maps to a single AWS payer account. The payer account receives the bill for AWS services. For example, if an agency has several organizations that they're procuring services for, they might want to segregate the expenditures for those organizations by opening different payer accounts. Under each payer account, you have several linked accounts to be assigned to various missions and departments. The bill is actually going to be issued at the payer account level, which is at the CLIN level. At the end of the month, when the bills are produced, AWS will submit the invoice through the appropriate billing mechanism listed in the contract. For example, wide area workflow, IPP, or whatever your agency's authorized invoicing portal might be. How do you know how much funding to put on your contract? The Simple Monthly Calculator is an easy-to-use tool that helps you estimate the cost of AWS services for your use case based on your expected usage. The calculator also lets you save and conveniently share these estimates with a unique URL. The calculator allows you to estimate individual or multiple prices and use templates to appraise complete solutions. The estimates show the total one-time cost and also estimating recurring monthly cost. Remember to choose the appropriate AWS region first, as service availability and pricing varies by AWS region. The calculator includes the AWS GovCloud US regions. The information needed by the Simple Monthly Calculator should be supplied by someone who knows the technical details of the project in AWS. For example, the level of detail required includes such things as the number of storage volumes, how big they are, and how many input-output operations per second they need to support. For more information about the Simple Monthly Calculator, see http://aws.amazon.com/calculator. The CLIN should be funded on a not-to-exceed basis. AWS charges customers based on the actual usage of the services at the catalog price at the time of consumption. For more information about pricing, see http://aws.amazon.com/pricing. Unlike a traditional fixed price contract, where a contractor would retain the entire funded amount according to the CLIN, AWS charges based on a pay-as-you-go basis, meaning that the government is only charged for actual usage. For example, if a government agency allocates $1,000 to a CLIN, but only uses $800 worth of services, the bill is only $800. It's up to the policy of each particular agency of how to use the extra funding. Here are some examples of CLINs. The first CLIN in this example is for AWS services. Since we recommend that you have a single CLIN for AWS services and not individual CLINs for each service, you should use a unit price of $1. This means that if you want to fund a CLIN for $1,000, the quantity should be 1,000 with a unit of each. This allows you to use any of the services in the AWS service catalog against that $1,000. The second CLIN is for training. AWS training is procured on a fixed price basis. Similar to the AWS services CLIN, we recommend that you use a single CLIN for AWS training to maintain the flexibility of use. The third client is for AWS Marketplace purchases. It operates the same as the AWS Services line. The difference is that you purchase through the AWS Marketplace console, which is available commercially through the AWS website. The single line item approach provides flexibility to use new or different AWS offerings and innovations without requiring contract modifications to reflect new services and reallocate funding. When to engage AWS contracts. AWS contracts is available to assist in your procurement of AWS services. You can engage AWS contracts during your market research when we can provide information on how to procure AWS services through a solution provider or directly through AWS and the terms and conditions you should apply to your acquisition. Post-award, we're also available to help during the life of the contract to help with contract-related items during day-to-day contract administration of your procurement action with AWS. When you're ready to engage with AWS contracts, send an email to aws-wps-contract-mgmt@amazon.com. Recap. Some key takeaways. Procurement and contract management of cloud computing services is different from procurement and contract management of traditional IT infrastructure services. This is because AWS provides on-demand services with no physical asset management and can be scaled as needed with pay-as-you-go pricing. AWS terms and conditions are incorporated into every direct government contract. Those are the terms that govern the actual use of the AWS services, so they're an integral part of the contract. AWS charges customers based on actual usage of services at the then current unit pricing reflected in our commercial service catalog. Each CLIN maps to an AWS payer account, which is the account that receives the bill. You can use the simple monthly calculator to estimate the funding to put on your contract or task order. The components of a direct federal contract with AWS are your standard form for the procurement of commercial items, the AWS Enterprise Agreement, along with AWS attachments that would be required for federal agencies. Contact AWS contracts at aws-wps-contract-mgmt@amazon.com. This has been Direct U.S. Federal Contracting with AWS. My name is Garrell Moore. Thank you for watching.